Hi everyone. Today we're discussing Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. I'm really excited to talk about this story. I'm really captivated by it, and I'm excited to hear what you all think too. So overall, this plot captured my attention and left me very emotional at the end. This really shows masterful writing in my opinion. If a story can make me cry, make me laugh, make me happy, make me remember things, I feel like the writer has really succeeded. Because sometimes it can be hard to make other writers feel those emotions because we've read so many things, we've read so many plots, it can be hard to really capture a writer's attention. So I enjoyed that. There were a few specific writing craft choices that Gaiman made that I really found made this book successful in my opinion. Something that drew me in as a reader that I always like to include in my books too was the repetitive nature. Some of my other classmates brought up the fact that he always says and. When he lists things, there's always and. And I feel like that brought also a childlike quality to the character, the narrator he was portraying. And another really interesting thing is that he always referred to Ursula Monkton by first and last name. It was always Ursula Monkton. It was never just Ursula, which I thought brought a lot of ominous nature to the character and made her more intimidating and made her seem more like authoritative. And that was really effective for characterization. And it was such a small little tool that he used, and I really see how I could implement that in names and things like that in my own characters. Another really cool aspect was the consistent color scheme of characters. The Hemstocks I felt always were really in earthy tones, kind of browns, blacks, kind of like off-whites, things like that really kind of represented nature and earth to me. While the narrator and his family, I felt, wore a lot of primary tones. His dad had a blue shirt on when the drowning incident in the tub happened. The boy wore like red and white striped pajamas. I felt like they were always in these kind of like very basic primary colors, where Ursula Monkton was pretty much strictly like pink and gray, like the worm and kind of like the canvas monster that she also turned into, which was kind of like a gray tone in the way I imagined it at least. Also, something I thought was really intriguing, personally for me, was the importance of cats, because I really love cats. This began with his cat Fluffy in the beginning, his kitten that kind of triggered all of the events. Like the rising action was kind of triggered when the opal miner came and ran his cat over, because he eventually dies and kind of makes all of this alternate dimension come to a reality for this narrator. And also, he finds a cat when he arrives in that alternate dimension that he takes him to. And this is kind of a turning point for him when he pulls that cat out of the ground. He's realizing, wow, this is all more real than it seems. Maybe this isn't just my imagination. There, he really questions reality. And then it's really cool because then it ends with him reuniting with this otherworldly cat. Even though he's lost the memories of everything that happened, he does have the cat and that he names Ocean. And it kind of, he still cares about the cat even though all the memories of all the finer details, obviously, what happened with the Hemstocks are missing. I also really I watched the audiobook, and one thing I really enjoyed were all the different accents he used. It was read by Neil Gaiman himself. So for the Hemstocks, he used this kind of like old English, very rustic kind of English accent. And for the narrator and his parents, he used a little more posh English accent, kind of just like a basic English accent. And he even had accents for the opal miner. And then the kind of like demons and things like that, they almost didn't have accents at all. They just spoke very like basic and monotone. So I think hearing those voices from his perspective really enhanced my interpretation of the characters in the book. I enjoyed kind of the feeling of recalling the first person perspective. I really felt like it allowed memory to take over, and it kind of just, it remembered me of when I remember things from my childhood, and I'm like, these are crazy. It was kind of really similar to that. So it felt kind of intimate, which was also kind of like something I enjoyed about it. Some of my favorite quotes took place when Gaiman throughout this Gaiman throughout this book addresses common fallacies. One that happened near the kind of beginning of the book when Ursula Monkton first comes and she gives the narrator's little sister money. She's bringing everyone money. She says, everyone wants money. She said it as if it were self-evident. And I'm drawn to these scenes where he brings these common misconceptions that everyone thinks like, oh yeah, if I have money, I'll be happy. That's all I need. He kind of exposes those and brings them to the light and proves that they're inaccurate, because money really doesn't make you happy. That's something that is obvious through many people's personal accounts. Also, vivid description was something that really, really drew me to this book. One of my favorites came from near the end when when Ursula Monkton showed her true form once again, and she attacked him. I was holding fabric, a perished, rotting canvas, and beneath it I could feel wood, not good solid wood, but the kind of old decayed wood I'd find where trees had crumbled, the kind that always felt wet, the kind I could pull apart with my fingers, soft wood with tiny beetles in it and wood lice, all filled with thread-like fungus. That was such a rounded out image of this creepy monster. It really creeped me out, really freaked me out, really freaked me out. So I would say that was very, very effective because I was moved by that. It made me envision it. I was grossed out. I could almost feel it beneath my fingers. And if you can really, and that was something, the sensory details. He really just, I could feel so many things. I could see so many things. He really showed. That was the main thing. He showed in this and he didn't tell. He really, his descriptives, even though he was going for the perspective of a 7-year-old boy, were very relatable. That was something I liked. It was really relatable. His metaphors were all very relatable, something that most people can all relate to. And I liked how fluid and easy his action scene come across. I have a bad habit of complicating actions. I'm always like, oh, I need to describe every little movement, every little thing needs to be accurate. The reader needs to know what's happening. But I feel like he just relaxed and just let the scenes go. One of my favorite action scenes came from when the narrator first met the Hemstocks after the opal miner killed himself. Letty filled a huge copper kettle from the tap. She lit a glass hob with a match and put the kettle onto the flame. Then she took down 5 chip mugs from the cupboard and hesitated, looking at the woman. It's so easy, and I get a vivid scene. I can see her taking them down. I can see her preparing everything. It's so easy, and so I'm really going to try to take a memo from that and just keep it simple, stupid, right? That's what I'm going to try to do. Not make things overcomplicated for myself. And just kind of a random one, I just like the perspective in this book. I'm just really attracted to the way that Gaiman portrays things. I like his fiction writing. I really think that it may be common or it may be basic, but it's so relatable. It just like kind of brings me comfort. I just really enjoy it. So another really great quote I found. In books, boys climb trees, so I climb trees, sometimes very high, always scared of falling. He built really unique characters that break the status quo in kind of unpredictable ways. Like, he doesn't want to climb trees. He's climbing trees because that's what he thinks that he's supposed to do. And I felt that way so many times through life, kind of just doing things because I feel like I'm supposed to do them. And that's just, it really just resonated with me. And so I left this part to the end because some people may not relate with this, but Coraline was one of my favorite books as a kid, which is also by Neil Gaiman, and there were so many similarities in it that I really just couldn't ignore, and I really thought it'd be cool to kind of analyze some of them. So one of the main things that jumped out to me is that cats are figures of protection, specifically cats that are black, surprisingly. Coraline's major companion is a black cat that goes with her to this altered dimension that she also visits. And the narrator has a black cat in the beginning, and he has a black cat with a white kind of ear at the end, so it's still mainly black, which I thought was really, really interesting. Also, the theme of children traveling to an alternate dimension. In both pieces, children roughly under 13 travel to alternate dimensions accidentally or rather easily. Coraline crawls through a crawl space in her home, and it guides her to this alternate dimension of the real world. The narrator simply goes down the street with his father, is introduced to this girl, and just travels to this alternate dimension. So I think it's interesting that kind of repeats throughout Gaiman's fiction, and I think that's kind of interesting. Also, the idea of split houses or like boarding strangers. Coraline lived in a house that was like a large mansion that was kind of split into different levels that her parents allowed other people to live in. And in Ocean at the End of the Lane, the narrator lived in a home where his parents rented out a room. So it was kind of interesting that both of these children are in situations that aren't particularly to their liking, where they'd rather have what they want. They don't want to really share their space with other people. So I found that intriguing that was also similar. And in both of these, an outwardly female protagonist, I say outwardly because I'm not sure if that canvas monster was truly female, if it had a gender, but it was outwardly female. An outwardly female antagonist antagonizes children. in Coraline, there's this character called the Other Mother, who is the one who terrorizes Coraline and is causing all this trouble. And of course, Monkton is the one who really terrorizes the narrator and Ocean at the end of the lane. And also, they focus on fabric and sewing materials. In Coraline, a main theme is that the Other Mother wants to give Coraline button eyes. In this, the monster is made of canvas. And also, Letty looked like a silk kind of protagonist when she was kind of in her true form in that other, when they were in the ocean. So this kind of obsession almost with like fabric and sewing materials and like sewing and stitching memories. I wonder where that resonates for Gaiman. It's really unique. I kind of relate with sewing too. My whole family sewed my whole life, so maybe it's something like that, where he watched his parents sew. He watched his mother sew. He watched his grandmother sew. Things like that. So I just really wanted to say thank you to Professor Kaufman for assigning this book because I really, really, really enjoyed it. Had me laughing throughout. I enjoyed the mystery and kind of not knowing exactly what was going on and having to kind of guess and never knowing exactly what the Hemstocks exactly were. What were they? So it had me laughing throughout, and I was biting my nails and crying through the epilogue, but I loved it. Thank you so much, and I'm so excited to hear what you guys all say. I hope you guys have a great February, and I'll talk to you next time.